So next, we want to define precisely what this GDP thing is. That's our next learning objective. So the basic idea is to kind of ask ourselves the question, how would I measure how well the economy is doing? And one way to answer that is to ask, well, how much stuff did we make? So if I want to know in the entire US economy, how much stuff would we make and how would I quantify that, right? So think about it, one option to quantify how much stuff we made is I could just start counting items, right? So I made one Apple Pencil, I made one iPad, a computer, I made this many frozen pizzas, right? This many Miller Lights. I can add up all of the stuff that we made one by one and get a total quantity at the end, right? We produced 415 trillion items, right? Probably much, much more than that, actually. Now, the problem with that is that how can I compare making 400 trillion items today to how many we made in 1950? We made different stuff. We might have made a lot less stuff, but it certainly is different than the stuff we make today. And comparing across countries then gets a bit difficult. And it can be pretty hard to measure how much stuff we made if I just count, right? So I can't really just count the number of things we made. I need some other measure of that. And the measure that we've settled on in macroeconomics is what we call gross domestic product, or GDP. And the way that we resolve the counting issue is that we use the market value of all final goods and services produced in a country during a given period of time. So there's several parts to this that are important. The market value, final goods, we'll have to understand what each parts of this definition mean, and produced in a country during a given period of time. So we're going to ask within the borders of the United States, what is the market value? And by that we mean we're going to evaluate the quantities by their market prices. Okay, those prices determined by supply and demand. So I'm going to put a dollar number on my production of final goods and services, whatever final means here. Okay, so we're going to end up with one number that's a dollar number that summarizes our total economic activity, gross domestic product. So GDP measures our production, right? So GDP is a measure of production. So as we'll see, it's also a measure of income, is another way to look at it. But that's what we're after, right? How much stuff did we produce? And GDP is what is going to get us there. So we will eventually come to, as we go through this here, an understanding of what a final good or service is as opposed to any other alternative. Okay, so learning objective 3 is to understand a little bit how the economy kind of fits together in a bunch of different pieces. And this will also help us understand GDP a little bit better as well. So here's a hypothetical economy that I'm going to make very simple. So we're just going to have two goods. We have beer and we have pizza. And I have two different economies here that I want to compare. And so notice that just counting gives me somewhat of an ambiguous answer in terms of which economy made more stuff, right? Economy 1 made 50 beers and 100 pizzas. Economy 2 made fewer beers but more pizza. So which economy produced more stuff? Well, it kind of depends on the value of these two different things, right? How much goes into making a pizza versus how much goes into making a beer. And so if we know the market prices, which I've given us here, price of beer and pizza, we can calculate the value of the production. Okay, so in economy 1, for example, the value of production is the quantity of beer times the price of the beer. plus the quantity of pizza times the price of pizza, right? So we have $1,250 worth of total output. So in economy 2, we have 40 beers times the $5 per beer plus $10 times 120 pizzas, and we have $1,400 of GDP. We have 200 plus 1,200. So now we can definitely say economy 2 produce more stuff, right? The value of their production is 1,400 compared to economy 1, which was 1,250. So that's the basic idea of GDP. I want to measure your production, and I'm going to do it by taking the market value of your final goods and services and adding that all up. Now, we'll get to a few other ways of doing this that will help, understand GDP and also help us understand how the different parts of the economy fit together. So that will be coming up next, is to look at different ways of calculating GDP.